So what we've done is we've picked a few key exercises that if you've got pickleball people that can't do these, do whatever you can on the mobility and stability spectrum to get them doing these as quick as possible. And if we've got somebody coming off an injury, the first thing I want to see is, Lee, can you do these exercises without a problem, and can you appreciate maybe left-right differences or why you're good in some exercises and not the other? Therefore, we can prioritize the movement patterns for your game.
So one thing that we've got to mention as we go into showing some of these exercises, as Michelle rattle off the stats, rattle off the age ranges of people who are playing, we as fitness healthcare professionals are going to see people that are coming in we're going to see people that are coming in, whether injured, non-injured, play. We've got to set the stage so we know what exercises are most appropriate, and that's where screening comes in. Does a person have an underlying mobility problem? Does a person have an underlying stability problem? Because that's going to help direct what we then need to do. Because if a person that is 60-year-old is getting ready to go out and play pickleball and they've got some limitations in their mobility, we've got to attack that and address that. So just keep that in the back of your mind as we go through some of these things. Some of these will actually attack both, but we've got to make sure that we've got that and we know what's going to help the person out the most.
When you have to choose, especially pickleball and tennis, chop or lift, we're going to go lift first. It's going to be a down to up. It's going to be posturally correct. You're going to use lighter weights, but it's also going to have a range of motion advantage. Now, the first thing I want Lee to know, can you get through the pattern without wrist pain? So let's just go up and through. It's a pull to a push. Should have no wrist pain here. So we're going to rep out a few, making sure his base is narrow, his posture's good, and we're going to shoot for a mark up here in the air, and there you go, he's fine. Now, the first thing I want to do is just let Lee do a rep out. Feel comfortable with it, maybe at 12 or 15. I want him to immediately about face the other direction and let me know, does it feel the same or different? This is where, as a trainer, I'm going to capitalize on this left-right asymmetry and say, don't bring this to the court, okay? So he's nice and smooth there. He's got some awareness. He's going to turn around and do the mirror image movement. And if you don't capitalize on this opportunity right here, you're going to miss the beauty of doing these lifts. Now, if you're noticing a little bit of difficulty.
Much more difficult in this position.
Okay.
Not because of my wrist.
Not because of his wrist. Lee had fractured a hip a long time ago as a kid. He's always had left-right asymmetries. And so we're going to work out Lee's core in a very pickleball racket sport specific way. Would planks do the same thing? Statically, but not dynamically. So number one, you already know I need an extra 2 sets of lifts on this side as the other side. Set your baseline. Now, I also want to see a single leg deadlift.
Why this? Why are we putting this down?
Some people can't go all the way to the ground, and a lot of people, now, all the way to the ground, go more weight and do an even better lift. But I don't need full range of motion to benefit from the stability in this. There's a lot of people who can't go that low. So.
And you notice what Gray's got me doing here in this position. A lot of questions we get, what about the knee? Well, right now, the weight is being distributed across my shin. So the stress on the knee is minimal in this position. So that's one thing to add in.
Yes, it is. And the second thing is, you can't really see it, but so many people set up for chops and lifts and they're wide doing that. And the essence of what we're doing, and by having that, is I can get Lee to narrow down so he really has to use his core and his stability to do this thing. So when he's coming up and across, he's throwing himself off balance and having to recover in motion. And that's really what we do. So I don't mind if people start with a light weight and a wide base and a lift if they need it, but we're constantly going to narrow base, full range of motion, and a nice, strong, symmetrical lift. That's where we're headed. It might take a year to get there, but you've got to be aiming for that.
So now, this is another activity I added in early on. This is also a distraction from my wrist, if you think about it, even with me using the band here. So now as I go back, do a single leg, let the weight pull me, and then pull it back and through, making sure you're not letting those shoulders flex out. But again, another activity I could do early on in my rehab for my wrist. Getting myself up nice and tall, slide that foot back, let the band go forward, keep my shoulders tight, and then push through.
One thing here, I'm not really concerned about Lee's range of motion. I do want to make sure he's doing it all on one leg. He's holding a neutral spine. The range of motion isn't that much, but this is a great way just to challenge balance, okay? Now, we can do it with a lot of different devices, but since we're going to use the bands and they're non-threatening, it's going to give us that. But what I want you to really look at here is left-right differences once again. I have a lot of people who aren't ready for squats and lunges right away because they don't want to bend their knee that much, and there's a reason for that. And usually, whether I've got patellofemoral problems in teenagers or arthritic knee problems in older people, their weak hip is exploiting their knee, and we can get your hip strong before we ask you to bend your knee too much here. And if, once again, like the chop and lift, if there's a big difference, I need you to close that gap. That's your homework.
And one thing to consider here with me, I've got both hands on the band, which is basically not giving me a rotary component. If I put the bands in one hand and go back, now it's creating a lot of rotation. That would actually be a progression. This is a little bit easier, even though you can argue it's more resistance. The resistance is straight. As soon as I put the band in one hand, now it creates a lot of imbalance. So that would be a progression in this example.
Now, if we have gotten rid of some of those lift asymmetries and maybe worked them all the way to standing and some of those single leg deadlift asymmetries, I really want Lee to get comfortable with lunges. And we're going to take off our strength coach hat right now because 3 sets of 10 don't exist no more. How long's pickleball last? Way longer than that. So I'm going to make his lunge easy. As a matter of fact, Lee's going to have the same effect as if he were that deep in a pool right now, because as he lunges out, this bungee cord gives him more assistance the lower he goes. Now he can rep out one side and see how that feels. So go ahead and give me 5 or 6 on one side. Step about the same place, stride it out a little bit more. No spine movement. We do not want to see the head bobbing. He shouldn't have to, because we're making the lunge easy and the hardest point. One other thing that a lot of people have is they don't use enough of their ankle and calf in this. Now Lee's got some great big old calves, so he's probably using his. But simply just giving Lee dorsiflexion stretch and a plantar flexion post-off actually could refine and make his lunge better. So set that up, step out into a heel down dorsiflex position, and some people with a small ramp or a small toe lift will feel much more comfortable in the lunge. And that was the missing piece. Too much knee, not enough ankle. If that doesn't make a difference, all I need you to do is get both your lunges equal. And because I made it assistive, there's no reason why you can't watch your favorite TV show and clip out 40 of these, not 4. So we're really getting those joints lubricated and that center of gravity used to going low. You won't use all of that in pickleball. You'll have reserve in every direction you play.
And I definitely have an asymmetry, Gray, going out with this right. And that actually showed up in the chop. So I know that asymmetry is coming out. And again, same thing with pickleball. That deceleration that I got into is what created it. And I will guarantee you some of that asymmetry I've got may have led to that inability to kind of slow myself down to keep myself from slipping and falling back.
Now, one rule I made for myself long ago, working with the highest caliber tennis in the world at the time, was I wasn't really worried about somebody's squat if they had a left-right lunge difference. So Lee, I'm very comfortable with you working out the 3 asymmetries we may have exposed before I show you how to really load up the core integrity in that squat. But let's fast forward about 3 weeks and assume that you did what you're supposed to do.
Well, one thing before we do that, Gray, I've seen this option be an option as well, where you actually extend your arms out, and it's still the assisted technique, but now what does this do? Besides pop me in the head.
It's a great option because now what Lee did is took the pull from his waist, transferred it up through his torso. So how we talked about anti-rotation exercise at chop and lift, this is an anti-extension exercise in the low back. So believe it or not, we could also load one side and be able to do that, or both sides. If Lee had resolved some of his asymmetries, and I really wanted to lock him in, just like the FMS, we're always going to finish with that squat. And believe it or not, this is going to look like a resisted move, but it's like giving somebody a heel lift in their squat because of that activation that it's going to create. So I'm going to get Lee basically just to put these on his shoulders. All right. And the reason we go hands up or hands partial or something like that is Lee is now being pulled forward. So all his weight is shifted to his toes. So in essence, Lee can lean back in his squat a little bit, almost as if he had a heel lift. But if he leans back too far, he's going to fall. So I'm going to spot him the first time he does this and say, your torso's vertical, and now you can just train the squat. Now, if we came here with an asymmetry in his lift, his single leg deadlift or his lunge, we would probably see him doing some unnecessary rotation, unnecessary torque, valgus collapse, pronation, or spinning out. But if we were to work that through and be patient, we can actually put the icing on the cake and get some good cardio interval right here with that squat. And if we've opened up Lee's squat pattern a little bit more and made his lunges more symmetrical, he has two options with pickleball now to use his lower body in a closed, coiled position or in a very adaptable, open position. And we just saved him a step, but we also protected your balance.
Yeah.
So.
And for me, knowing my background, knowing my screen, I don't have really a mobility problem. I've got more of a motor control. And again, that asymmetry comes into play. So much more on the split stance activities is what I need to focus on. Less about mobility, but a lot of these little really quick activities, 15 to 20 minutes we're talking about, Greg. We're not talking about a lot of time.
No. And a small version of these would be the perfect warm-up, because in my early days in tennis, I didn't have a gym everywhere I went with professional tennis players. We were hanging this stuff on the fence and simply polishing that bad lift you got or waking up that sort of lazy lunge that you have as a warm-up right before the thing, because there's a competitive advantage there. Just doing a stretch before you play is not necessarily the only thing.
What about the Indian club? So now, once I get on the other side of this injury, adding in some Indian club basic moves could be a good way for maintenance, but also, especially you get some slams and some swings to add into that little plyometric effect.
We've got so much Indian club information up on YouTube, and we've even got a course in Indian clubs. But the one thing that hit me like a ton of bricks working with racket and club sports is motor learning usually helps best at or near the speed of competition. So we are left with medicine balls and Indian clubs that actually move as fast as a club or a racket. So once we've got that fundamental base, because 90% of what we did here was to create the roots of the tree, and we're going to let the limbs do what they do with that good root system, not compensate for it. But getting a little bit of velocity, getting some of the basic patterns like Lee said, or even some of the more complicated shoulder health patterns, it's a great place to put people. And believe it or not, by changing your stance in your base, we get balance and movement quickness in the upper body. So clubs come from club fighting and sword fighting, but there's so much carryover for people who throw and swing implements that it's amazing. And just
coach me through, Greg, because I think the two moves that I think would be good are the swings and the slams, because they're easy to do, but you got to have the good foundation first.
Right. So the one thing I'll do is with that half kneeling, you can actually do just swing it through, lift it up. So just getting sort of a little bit of a ballistic stretch. Now, I'm saying this in the future as if he's already done his chops and lifts, but just learning, see that natural rocking motion he's doing? Now switch your legs, Lee, and just swing it the other way. If you're still noticing a difference, yeah, there you go. And if you feel a little awkward on one side than the other, then that's a good work through. So if you've got the range of motion to do that and you've done the homework to do that, that's a great way to lock it in. When we come up here, we basically can cross at the top and open at the bottom. And slamming those clubs down, once again, creates that momentum. And you see an energy transfer. His heels are floating not because I told him to plantar flex. His heels are floating because he threw energy into the floor and his body threw it back up.
And for me, I would want to do this split stance position for the same reasons we talked about the lunge.
Exactly. So that's all in our clubs program. But the other one is just like a kettlebell swing, but for some of your clients and some of your people playing pickleball, if they never touch a kettlebell, just opening that X to the top. And so if you notice, there's like a pane of glass right here. And so I have Lee hip hinging way more than squatting and quickly unleashing that. So he's going from a universal ready position of reaction to an explosion and just letting his arms transfer the energy. And so we don't want to see people be robotic and thinking of this as a front lift. Those clubs are made to be swung. And here's what I mean by that. There's a small amount of acceleration at the beginning and a free ride to the top. And most people are trying to lift those clubs all the way to the ceiling. You don't have to. Flick them hard, ride them to the top, bring them down quick. So these movements are a way to take a little bit more of a ballistic neurological preparation. And you can do it with med balls, but clubs are way more specific. You can do it with kettlebells, but clubs are way safer for people who aren't into that. So there's a great advantage to be gained here once you build your base.
Yeah, and you can see, Ray, I'm a little winded by just doing that little bit of club work. So another good thing to add in, even is like a little circuit that we just went through. And again, I can't talk very much now after doing just that little 30 seconds right there.